Imagine waking up one morning to empty shelves at your local store. No fresh bread, no meat, no water. Not because you forgot to shop, but because the trucks never arrived. A snowstorm, a blackout, a supply chain failure. And suddenly, money can't buy what no one has. That's when the real preparation shows. Not panic buying, not a cart full of snacks, but a survival pantry filled with the right products. Items that stay good for years, require no power to keep fresh, and still give your family real nutrition. Today, we're walking through 11 survival pantry products you must stockpile, not out of fear, but out of wisdom. If you want peace of mind in 2025, this list is where it begins. If there's one food that quietly separates those who panic from those who prepare, it's white rice. Not flashy, not trendy, just dependable. White rice isn't just a filler, it's the foundation. When fresh food disappears, when the freezer fails, or when the stores are cleared out by a storm or strike, one sealed bag of white rice becomes the difference between stress and survival. Here's what most people don't realize. White rice, when stored properly, can last over 30 years. No preservatives, no refrigeration, just clean, sealed, and dry. It outlives canned goods, it outlasts freeze-dried meals, and it holds a special power that's easy to underestimate: calorie stability. A single cup of dry rice yields enough food to feed a family for a night, slowly releasing energy, filling the stomach, and calming the nerves. In emergencies, that's exactly what the body and mind needs. But not all rice is created equal. Brown rice might sound healthier, but it contains natural oils in the outer bran layer, and those oils go rancid within 6 to 12 months. That's why white rice is the only true long-term rice. Once it's milled, those oils are stripped away, and what's left is a starch-rich grain with nearly no moisture, a food bacteria can't grow on, and mold can't survive in. So why isn't everyone storing it? Because they treat rice like a regular grocery item, not a survival essential. Left in its thin plastic supermarket bag, rice becomes vulnerable. It absorbs moisture. It picks up smells from onions, garlic, or chemicals. And once that happens, it's not spoiled, but it's no longer something you want to eat. The right way to store white rice is airtight, dry, and sealed. Mylar bags with oxygen absorbers, 5-gallon food-grade buckets with screw-top lids. Even heavy-duty glass jars with rubber seals work if kept in a cool, dark place. No light, no humidity, no airflow. That's how you preserve rice, not for months, but for decades. Now think about what that means. When the shelves go empty and deliveries stop for a week or longer, a family with 20 pounds of white rice doesn't panic. They cook, they eat, they wait out the chaos. Because rice doesn't just fill the stomach, it buys time. Time to think. Time to plan. Time to breathe. While others are scrambling for fast food or fighting over the last loaf of bread, the prepared are sitting down to warm rice bowls, maybe with some canned beans, a bit of oil, or just salt, and they're doing just fine. And here's the best part. Rice is versatile. It can become porridge when water is limited, fried rice when eggs and oil are available, soup filler when stretching out vegetables, or eaten plain when supplies are low. It adapts to what you have or don't have. For older adults, rice is also easy to digest. No strong flavors, no complex prep. Just a quiet, comforting source of stable energy that helps regulate blood sugar, fuels the brain, and keeps the body warm, especially during cold seasons or power outages. And from a financial perspective, few foods offer more return on investment. A 20-pound bag of white rice costs less than a fast food dinner for two, but can provide 40 full meals or more. It's not just cheap food, it's smart food. It's the core of every military ration, every relief shipment, every emergency storage kit. For a reason. White rice won't solve every problem, But when life gets unpredictable, this one product might be the single most important reason you stay steady. So the real question isn't whether you like rice, it's whether you're thinking ahead. Are you storing yours in a cardboard bag on the floor? Or in a sealed, airtight container that will still feed your family 10 years from now? When fresh food disappears, powdered milk becomes one of the last real sources of nutrition still standing. It's the kind of item most people overlook until the day they realize the fridge is silent, the store is closed, and there's no fresh milk left anywhere. That's when powdered milk stops being a backup and starts being a lifeline. Let's be clear, powdered milk is not just for kids or baking. It's one of the most nutrient-dense, shelf-stable foods you can own. Packed with protein, calcium, vitamin D, fat, and energy, it contains what the body can't produce on its own, especially during prolonged shortages. In a crisis where fresh vegetables, meat, and dairy are unavailable, powdered milk helps prevent nutritional decline, especially for children, the elderly, and anyone recovering from illness or fatigue. But its true value is in its independence from refrigeration. Unlike liquid milk, which spoils within hours during a power outage, powdered milk just sits quietly on your shelf, safe, dry, and ready. It doesn't need cold, it doesn't need preservatives, it only needs to be stored correctly, and that's where most people make their first mistake. Powdered milk only lasts for decades when it's sealed airtight and protected from moisture. The moment air and humidity enter the container, the fats inside begin to oxidize. Clumps form, mold can appear, and the nutritional value begins to drop. Once that process starts, there's no going back. That's why powdered milk should never be left in a torn bag, paper pouch, or loosely sealed container. If you're storing it for serious emergency use, it needs to be in a sealed mylar bag, vacuum jar, or metal tin with an oxygen absorber inside. Moisture is the enemy. Airtight is the solution. The second mistake. People think powdered milk is fake food, but that's not true. Most powdered milk is just dehydrated real milk, nothing artificial about it. The water is removed through heat and spray drying, preserving all the core nutrients. The result? A lightweight, long-lasting powder that rehydrates instantly and provides the same macronutrients and minerals your body would expect from a cold glass of milk. And here's where powdered milk becomes even more powerful: versatility. In an emergency, it's not just a drink. You can mix it into oats, turn it into creamy soups, thicken sauces, bake with it, or blend it into shakes with honey or peanut butter for quick energy. Just one scoop can turn a bowl of rice or dry cereal into a more complete, satisfying meal. If you're caring for children or elders, even a few tablespoons a day can protect them from nutritional collapse when other options are gone. And unlike liquid dairy, powdered milk is portable and scalable. You don't have to open the entire container at once. You can measure out only what you need. One scoop at a time, one cup at a time. No waste, no spoilage. For older adults or people with sensitive digestion, low-fat or non-fat powdered milk is often easier on the stomach than regular dairy. And for those monitoring heart health, low cholesterol or fortified versions offer even more value without sacrificing essential vitamins. So, what's the risk of not having it? In a winter storm, a heatwave blackout, or a food shortage, milk is one of the first perishables to vanish. Truck delays mean no dairy. Refrigeration outages mean what's on the shelf will spoil. And families without a backup are left scrambling. But if you have powdered milk, you're not scrambling. You're calm, because you're prepared. This is not a luxury product. This is nutritional insurance. It doesn't expire quickly. It doesn't need power. It doesn't complain. It simply waits until the moment your family needs it most. So take a look at your pantry. If your milk went bad today, what would you drink tomorrow? In the world of emergency food storage, very few items are as underrated and as essential as pure salt. Not the trendy pink kind for Instagram photos, not the flavored gourmet variety, just real, pure, non-iodized salt. The kind that never expires, the kind that keeps food safe, keeps bodies stable, and never asks for refrigeration, power, or attention. Salt isn't just a seasoning, it's one of the oldest preservation tools in human history. Before refrigerators, before freezers, before modern packaging, salt was how we kept meat from rotting, how we saved fish through winter, and how entire families made it through seasons of scarcity. That hasn't changed. Salt still works, and in a crisis, it works even better. Here's what makes salt powerful. It kills bacteria by removing water. Bacteria, fungi, and mold need moisture to survive. Salt draws that moisture out, making it impossible for anything to grow. That's why salted meat, salted vegetables, and brined foods last dramatically longer than their fresh versions. In other words, salt extends the life of your other food, but not all salt is created equal. Most table salt today is iodized, meaning iodine has been added to prevent thyroid problems, and while it's safe for everyday use, it's not ideal for long-term storage. Iodized salt can absorb moisture, discolor, and take on strange odors if stored improperly. The added anti-caking agents can degrade over time and reduce the quality. That's why survivalists, preppers, and even old-school chefs choose non-iodized salt for emergency prepping. Sea salt, kosher salt, Himalayan pink salt, even basic rock salt. As long as it's pure, it's nearly immortal. Stored in a sealed container away from moisture, pure salt lasts forever. Not 5 years, not 10, forever. It doesn't spoil, it doesn't degrade, it doesn't lose effectiveness. Even if it clumps or hardens from humidity, it's still usable. You just crush it and continue. But salt's value goes beyond preservation. In a survival setting, it becomes multi-purpose medicine. Salt can clean wounds when antiseptic is unavailable. It can be used to gargle a sore throat or relieve gum infections. Mixed with water and sugar, it creates an electrolyte drink that can rehydrate someone suffering from heat exhaustion, fever, or diarrhea. In cold seasons, it helps retain body heat by stabilizing electrolyte levels. And just a pinch of salt in boiling water helps beans and pasta cook more evenly, reducing fuel use. It's also an emotional stabilizer. In moments of high stress, when food is bland or limited, a little salt brings back normalcy. It gives flavor to beans, life to rice, and satisfaction to otherwise repetitive meals. That psychological comfort, feeling like you're still eating well, can make all the difference when days are hard. So, how do you store it right? Simple. A sealed jar, a dry pantry, no sunlight, no need for oxygen absorbers. Just keep it dry and away from strong-smelling items like soap, detergent, or gasoline, because salt absorbs odors and you don't want that in your food. It doesn't need to be fancy. You don't need 100 varieties. Just 1 or 2 large containers of pure, dry salt can cover months of food security, health support, and preservation ability. In survival, some tools are loud: flashlights, radios, heaters, but some are silent, reliable, always waiting. Salt is one of them. It doesn't take space, it doesn't make noise, but when you need it, it will always be there. So look at your shelf. Is there a simple jar of pure salt sitting there, ready to preserve your food, protect your body, and give flavor back to a difficult day? If not, this is your reminder. When life becomes uncertain and meals are reduced to whatever is left in the pantry, there's one food that brings a strange sense of normalcy back to the table. Dry pasta. It's not fancy, it's not trendy. But when things get difficult, it becomes one of the most comforting, dependable, and adaptable foods you can rely on. Dry pasta doesn't need a fridge. It doesn't need preservatives. And unlike many shelf-stable products, it doesn't pretend to be survival food. It just is. a bag of spaghetti, a box of macaroni, a handful of penne. It's simple, but it carries weight, emotionally and nutritionally, when everything else is falling apart. Here's what makes pasta so powerful in your emergency pantry. It stretches your resources. You don't need much to turn pasta into a full meal. A little salt, a drizzle of oil, maybe some canned vegetables, or just powdered milk and water for a simple cream sauce. Whatever you have, pasta becomes the base that turns it into something familiar and satisfying. It cooks fast, it's filling, and it brings emotional comfort during times when people are tired of eating the same cold meals or canned proteins. One warm plate of pasta, even plain, can turn a survival day into something that feels a bit more human. But beyond comfort, pasta has serious survival value. First, it's extremely calorie-dense. 1 cup of dry pasta expands into over 2 cups of cooked food, and those calories come mainly from slow-digesting carbohydrates, the kind that fuel the brain, the muscles, and the mood. For older adults or those with low appetite, even a small bowl can provide hours of steady energy without causing stomach upset. Second, it's incredibly durable. When stored properly, pasta can last 10 to 30 years. It doesn't spoil because it contains almost no moisture. No water means no bacteria, no mold, no breakdown. Just make sure you don't leave it in thin supermarket packaging. That kind of paper or plastic tears easily, lets in air, and invites pantry bugs. If you're serious about long-term prepping, pasta should be transferred into airtight containers, mylar bags, or vacuum-sealed jars. Store them in a cool, dry place, and keep them away from strong-smelling spices, soaps, or chemicals. Pasta absorbs odors easily, and you don't want a garlic-scented elbow macaroni meal when all you have left is peanut butter. There's also something else pasta does that most survival foods don't. It satisfies variety. Even if you're eating from the same core ingredients, beans, canned tomatoes, powdered milk, the shape of the pasta changes the experience. Spiral, shell, rigatoni, lasagna. Each variation tricks the brain into feeling like the meal is different. That matters. During long stretches of food fatigue, and in a worst-case scenario, pasta can even be pre-soaked to save fuel. Soaking pasta in water for 30 to 60 minutes before heating reduces cook time dramatically, meaning you burn less propane, wood, or power during a blackout or outdoor cooking setup. Financially, it's one of the best pantry investments available. A $1 box of dry pasta contains over 1,500 calories, and when paired with a little oil or beans, it becomes a full, nutrient-packed meal for under 50 cents. It's food security that costs less than a cup of coffee. Pasta may not seem essential, but in the middle of a cold night, when the stores are closed and your family just wants something warm, you'll understand. Pasta is more than food. It's a soft reminder of comfort, control, and the normal life you're working to protect. So check your shelf. How much dry pasta do you actually have? And is it stored well enough to be there when you need it most? When chaos hits, a winter storm, a blackout, a sudden food shortage, the first meal people usually skip is breakfast. But that's exactly the meal that sets the tone for the day. And in those moments, nothing provides more calm, comfort, and control than a bowl of rolled oats. Rolled oats are often underestimated. They're not glamorous. They don't have a long ingredient list or fancy packaging. But they quietly offer something most survival foods don't: energy, fiber, simplicity, and emotional balance. In the early hours of a stressful day, that matters more than we realize. What makes rolled oats so powerful is that they're nutritionally dense, long-lasting, and incredibly easy to prepare. They don't need eggs, they don't need milk, they don't even need sugar. Just water and a little heat, and within minutes you've got a warm, filling meal that can carry you for hours. Let's talk about shelf life. When stored in airtight containers away from moisture, rolled oats can last up to 25 years. That's not a guess. That's backed by science. Oats are naturally low in fat, which means they don't go rancid quickly. They're also low in moisture, which means mold and bacteria can't grow. The biggest threat to oats? Improper storage. If you leave them in thin supermarket bags, they'll absorb humidity. They'll attract pantry moths. They'll pick up the smell of nearby spices or soap. That's why your oats should always be stored in sealed jars, mylar bags, or vacuum-packed buckets. But the real strength of oats isn't just how long they last, it's how they make everything else last longer too. If your supply of canned goods is limited, oats help you stretch them. A single spoonful of honey, a bit of powdered milk, even a dash of salt, all of it pairs with oats to form a complete breakfast that feels warm and familiar. Add in a few canned fruits, and suddenly you've got fiber, vitamins, minerals, and sustained energy, all from a base ingredient that costs pennies per serving. For people over 50, oats offer another hidden benefit. They're gentle on the stomach, easy to digest, and packed with beta-glucan, a type of soluble fiber proven to lower cholesterol and stabilize blood sugar. In times of stress, when fast food and panic eating become the norm, oats remain a grounding meal that brings your body back into balance. And the best part? You don't even need to cook them. Overnight oats, soaked in water or powdered milk, can sit in a jar and be eaten cold. No fuel, no fire, no stove. That's critical during long-term power outages or when cooking gas is scarce. Just prepare them the night before and have a ready-to-eat meal waiting when you wake up. In survival conditions, that kind of convenience becomes invaluable. There's also a psychological angle. In times of disruption, every bit of normalcy helps. A bowl of warm oats in the morning with a spoonful of honey or fruit feels like a ritual, something familiar in a world that suddenly feels unfamiliar. That kind of emotional stability is worth more than calories alone. And finally, let's talk cost. A large bag of rolled oats can feed a family for dozens of meals, all for the price of a single fast food combo. It doesn't spoil quickly. It doesn't demand refrigeration. It doesn't require fancy ingredients to work. It simply waits on the shelf, ready to serve. So ask yourself, when was the last time you looked at your oats, not as breakfast, but as resilience in a bowl? Because when everything else is uncertain, oats remain. Quiet, simple, solid. And sometimes that's exactly what we need. When a snowstorm hits, when the power is out, when the grocery store shelves are bare and the produce section is nothing but empty bins. The first thing your body misses isn't the meat. It's not the bread. It's the vegetables. And that's when canned vegetables stop being a side dish and become your nutritional front line. Canned vegetables are often dismissed as boring, too soft, too salty, too old-fashioned. But in a crisis, they become something much more valuable. Stable vitamins, reliable fiber, and long-term health protection, especially for older adults and children. Let's look at the science. According to the FDA and USDA, properly canned vegetables retain up to 80 to 90% of their original nutrients. That means your green beans, carrots, sweet corn, and peas still carry most of the vitamin A, vitamin K, folate, potassium, and dietary fiber that fresh vegetables offer, but without the vulnerability. Because here's the problem: fresh vegetables don't survive crisis conditions. The moment transportation stops or refrigeration fails, fresh produce begins to die. Spinach wilts, broccoli turns yellow, tomatoes collapse. And within 24 to 48 hours, your healthiest foods are no longer usable. But canned vegetables, they're untouched by temperature, shelf life, or time. As long as GSM, you store them in a cool, dry place. They don't need electricity. They don't need preservatives. And if the can is intact, no dents, rust, or swelling, then the food inside can remain safe and edible for 5 to 10 years, sometimes longer. Now think about what that really means. In the middle of a food crisis, when your pantry is full of rice, pasta, or beans, those carbs and proteins keep you full. But they don't keep you balanced. Your body still needs micronutrients, vitamins to support your immune system, fiber to regulate digestion, minerals to prevent fatigue. Without those, even a full belly can feel weak. And over time, nutritional deficiency sets in. That's where canned vegetables come in. They complete the meal. 1 scoop of canned carrots into your rice, a handful of peas stirred into your pasta, some green beans on the side of canned meat. Suddenly, you're not just surviving, you're restoring. And for older adults, this matters more than ever. As the body ages, it becomes less efficient at absorbing nutrients, meaning your food needs to work harder to keep you healthy. Canned vegetables provide soft textures, gentle digestion, and quick preparation, all without needing a knife, cutting board, or stove. Just open the can, warm it up if you want, and serve. But the key is choosing the right kind. Avoid canned vegetables loaded with added sugar or heavy salt brines. Look for labels that say low sodium, no salt added, or packed in water. These give you flexibility to season meals your way, and they preserve the most nutritional value without overloading your body with excess sodium. Also, variety matters. Stocking only corn or peas can lead to burnout. But a shelf with carrots, green beans, beets, spinach, and mixed vegetables gives you the power to rotate flavors, textures, and nutrients. It keeps meals from feeling stale and your body from running on repeat. In tough times, your food has to do more than fill space. It has to protect you. Canned vegetables do that, quietly, consistently, and for years without asking for anything in return. So next time you walk down the canned aisle, don't just see metal containers. See safety, see immunity, see a backup plan for the day when the fridge is warm, the produce is gone, and your body still needs something green. Because fresh vegetables may disappear, but your health doesn't have to. Some foods are meant to satisfy, others are meant to preserve, but a few, very few, are meant to do both and still offer healing when everything else has run out. That's exactly what honey does. It's not just sweet. It's not just ancient. It's functional survival, packed into a jar that never goes bad. Let's start with the obvious. Honey doesn't expire. Archaeologists have discovered sealed jars of honey inside Egyptian tombs that were over 3,000 years old and still perfectly edible. That's not a myth. That's chemistry. Honey contains almost no free water. Its high sugar concentration creates an environment too hostile for bacteria, mold, or fermentation. And its natural acidity, with a pH between 3 and 4.5, acts as a biological firewall. Microbes simply can't live in it. In short, when everything else in your pantry has a ticking clock, honey doesn't. But beyond shelf life, honey has survival properties most people forget, or never knew in the first place. In a crisis, energy becomes your first concern, and honey delivers it instantly. 1 tablespoon contains around 60 to 65 calories, almost entirely from simple desugars like glucose and fructose. Unlike processed sugar, honey also provides trace minerals, including calcium, potassium, iron, and zinc, along with antioxidants and natural enzymes. That means honey fuels your body fast without the crash. A spoonful in the morning can give you the energy to keep working. A bit mixed into oats or tea helps maintain blood sugar during stressful conditions. And if you're feeding children or caring for someone ill, honey becomes a nutrient-rich sweetener that's easy to digest and soothing to the stomach. But its role doesn't end at food. Honey is also natural medicine. It soothes sore throats and coughs, acting as a gentle anti-inflammatory. It can be applied directly to minor cuts and burns, where it creates a protective barrier and promotes healing. It contains antibacterial compounds, like hydrogen peroxide, that reduce infection risk on wounds. And, in low-light, high-stress conditions, A bit of honey mixed with water and salt can become a homemade electrolyte drink, helping to rehydrate the body safely. In survival conditions, that matters, because when medicine is scarce or hospitals are unreachable, even a small jar of honey becomes a multi-tool, part food, part healing agent, part comfort. But here's where many people make a mistake. They assume if honey crystallizes, gets thick, gritty, or solid, that it's spoiled. It's not. Crystallization is completely natural, especially in raw or unfiltered honey. Just place the jar in warm water and stir gently. Within minutes, it returns to liquid form. No nutrients lost, no danger, just patience and preparation. For long-term storage, honey needs just two things: a sealed container and a cool, dark place. It doesn't require refrigeration, it doesn't need vacuum sealing. Just keep it away from moisture, because even a few drops of water inside the jar can begin fermentation. Use a clean, dry spoon every time, and honey will outlast everything else in your kitchen. Emotionally, honey is also a morale booster. In the middle of a hard week, cold, hungry, tired, a little sweetness is more than just flavor. It's a psychological lift, something soft, something normal, something that reminds you that life is still good, even when circumstances aren't. So think again about what's in your pantry. You might have salt. You might have beans. You might have rice. But do you have honey? The one item that gives you fast energy, long-term healing, and emotional balance? Because when the world feels bitter, honey is your survival sweetness, and it never, ever expires. When the temperature drops, when the lights go out, when the only sounds in the kitchen are the wind outside and the low hum of silence, canned soup becomes more than just a meal. It becomes warmth, speed, and comfort in one small can. There's a reason soup is one of the first things to disappear from supermarket shelves when a storm is coming. It's not panic, it's pattern recognition. People understand, consciously or not, that soup is fast, flexible, and emotionally grounding, especially when everything else becomes complicated. Let's begin with the most obvious advantage: zero prep. Canned soup doesn't require chopping, no sautéing, no simmering for hours. It's already cooked. That means no power, no problem. You can eat it straight from the can if you have to, but with just a bit of heat, from a gas stove, a portable burner, or even a fire, you've got a full hot meal in minutes. In a crisis, where cooking time is limited and fuel is precious, soup is unbeatable. And we're not just talking about broth. Quality canned soups contain vegetables, protein, fiber, salt, and hydration, all in one sealed container. Chicken noodle, lentil, tomato basil, beef stew, split pea. Each one offers its own combination of nutrients that help your body push through fatigue, cold, and hunger without overloading your digestive system. That last part matters. In times of stress, many people struggle to eat heavy or dry foods. Their appetite drops, their energy drains, and digestion slows. A warm bowl of soup is gentle, nourishing, and easy to absorb, especially for older adults or children who need nutrition but don't feel like eating a full plate of rice and beans. There's also the psychological effect. Soup triggers something primal, a sense of safety, a sense of care. It's the food people bring when someone is sick. It's the dish that fills the house with warmth. Even during the worst days, sipping hot broth helps the body reset. That emotional relief is often as important as the calories. And yet, canned soup is often forgotten in long-term prep plans. Why? Because it feels too basic. But that's exactly what makes it powerful. Canned soup doesn't try to be gourmet. It tries to keep you going. Quietly. Quickly. Consistently. From a nutritional standpoint, soup helps balance your pantry. If you're living off rice, beans, and oats, all dry, carb-heavy staples, soup brings in hydration, electrolytes, and variety. A single can of vegetable soup can offer vitamins A and C, potassium, magnesium, and even protein, without requiring refrigeration or high heat. But here's where preparation matters. If you buy only one type, say tomato or chicken noodle, you'll get bored fast. The key to storing soup long-term is variety. Pick several kinds. Rotate flavors. Look for options labeled low sodium, low sugar, or high protein, depending on your household needs, and always check the cans for damage. Dents, rust, or bulges can make soup unsafe, even if it looks fine on the outside. Storage is simple: cool, dry, dark space. Shelf life: up to 5 years, sometimes more. And remember, expiration dates on soup cans usually refer to peak quality, not safety. As long as the can is intact, the soup inside can still be eaten long after the printed date. In a moment of panic, when meals are stressful and cooking feels like a burden, soup steps in. It reminds you what it's like to feel warm again, to slow down, to eat without effort. So ask yourself, if you needed a hot, complete meal within 5 minutes, with no electricity, no fridge, and no prep, what would you reach for? If your answer isn't canned soup, it should be. In a world where most survival foods demand patience, long soaking, hours of boiling, or specialized equipment, dry lentils quietly offer a shortcut. A full meal, high in protein. Ready in under 20 minutes. No electricity required, no overnight prep. Just heat, water, and a little time. And yet, lentils remain one of the most overlooked pantry essentials in American homes. What makes lentils different from other dried legumes, like beans, peas, or chickpeas, is simple: speed. While beans often require 8 to 12 hours of soaking and a long cook time, lentils go straight into the pot. No soaking, no waiting, just rinse, simmer, and serve. That single feature makes lentils one of the fastest cooking complete proteins available, ideal when fuel is limited, time is tight, or energy is low. But it's not just about speed, it's about what lentils deliver for the effort. Per serving, lentils contain more than 9 grams of protein, over 7 grams of fiber, and a powerful combination of iron, folate, magnesium, zinc, and B vitamins. For vegetarians and budget-conscious families alike, they are the cheapest source of complete nutrition you can buy in bulk. And when meat is scarce or unaffordable, lentils step in, not just as a filler, but as a foundation. Mix them with rice, and you create a complete amino acid profile. Add canned tomatoes or carrots, and you've got a balanced stew. Use powdered spices, herbs, or even bouillon cubes, and lentils transform into warm, satisfying comfort food with endless variation. But here's what most people miss. Lentils are perfect for emergency storage. Why? Because like pasta, oats, and rice, lentils are extremely low in moisture. That makes them resistant to spoilage, bacteria, and mold, as long as they're stored properly. In sealed mylar bags, jars, or food-grade buckets, lentils can remain shelf-stable for 20 to 30 years. That's not a guess. That's documented storage science. But they're also fragile, and that means careless storage can shorten their lifespan. Many people leave lentils in thin supermarket bags where moisture and air sneak in. Or they store them on a concrete floor where temperature shifts and humidity do slow damage. The result? Lentils that cook unevenly, smell musty, or, in the worst case, develop mold. If you're serious about long-term food prepping, transfer your lentils to airtight containers, store them in a cool, dry place, and keep them off the ground. That's all it takes. And unlike beans, old lentils don't become inedible. They just take slightly longer to cook. That's it. No sour smell, no rot, no rancid oil, just extra simmer time. A trade worth making in any survival situation. Lentils are also incredibly lightweight. A small bag contains dozens of servings, making it ideal for bug-out bags, mobile kits, or limited shelf space. They're easy to carry, easy to cook, and easy to combine with whatever ingredients are available. canned vegetables, dried herbs, oil, salt, or broth powder. Even in minimal conditions, lentils adapt. And emotionally, lentils bring something else to the table: warmth without heaviness. In high-stress situations, heavy foods can slow you down. Lentils fuel you, without the crash, without the bloat. Just clean, plant-based energy that helps you stay sharp, steady, and full. So while others are stocking up on expensive MREs and freeze-dried packs, you can quietly store a few pounds of lentils and feed your family for weeks. Fast, flexible, forgotten by many, but trusted by those who understand what real preparation looks like. Look at your shelf. If tomorrow you had to cook a full protein-rich meal with no meat, no power, and no time to soak, would you be ready? If you have lentils, you would. It doesn't look like much. Just a white powder in a small cardboard box, usually sitting quietly in the back of the fridge or the bottom drawer. But baking soda, also known as sodium bicarbonate, may be one of the most versatile and underappreciated survival tools you can stockpile. And in a true emergency, when access to medicine, cleaning products, refrigeration, and even basic hygiene disappears, this single humble powder can solve more problems than you'd expect. Let's start with the basics. Baking soda is a leavening agent used in baking to make dough rise. But that's just the beginning. What makes it essential for a survival pantry is that it's chemically reactive, non-toxic, and shelf-stable for decades when kept dry. It doesn't expire in the traditional sense. It may lose potency as a rising agent after a few years, but its cleaning and health properties never go away. In survival conditions, baking soda becomes a first line of defense in dozens of situations. 1. Emergency personal hygiene. If soap runs out, baking soda becomes a natural cleanser. You can use it as a toothpaste substitute, underarm deodorant, or even a gentle exfoliant to remove dirt and oil from the skin. Mixed with water, it can clean wounds. Mixed with vinegar, it becomes a bubbling scrub to disinfect surfaces. 2. Water purification. Helper. While baking soda doesn't disinfect water on its own, it can be used to adjust pH levels, making purification chemicals like bleach more effective. It also helps neutralize acidic odors and contaminants when boiling questionable water. 3. Digestive relief. In small doses, baking soda can neutralize stomach acid. A half teaspoon in water can relieve heartburn, acid reflux, or indigestion. Common problems when eating unfamiliar or shelf-stable foods during crisis situations. 4. Fire extinguisher. Substitute. If a small grease or electrical fire breaks out and you don't have a fire extinguisher, baking soda can suppress the flames. When heated, it releases carbon dioxide, which helps smother the fire. It won't replace a real extinguisher, but it's a life-saving backup if you're caught off guard. 5. Cleaning and deodorizing. Agent. No soap, no disinfectant, no bleach. Baking soda works as a multi-surface cleaner, from pots and pans to toilets and floors. It can also remove smells from shoes, clothing, garbage bins, or musty food storage areas. And unlike many chemical cleaners, it's safe around food, pets, and kids. The beauty of baking soda is in its low cost, zero maintenance, and multi-use practicality. A single pound can provide dozens of hygiene uses, medical benefits, and cleaning applications, all without expiration, refrigeration, or special storage conditions. You don't even need to rotate it yearly like you would with food or batteries. Just keep it dry and sealed in an airtight container. Some preppers even vacuum seal large quantities in Mylar bags to preserve freshness, but even a sealed mason jar is enough. And here's something many overlook. Baking soda can be used to preserve food safety too. Soaking produce in a baking soda and water solution can remove pesticide residues. Sprinkling it in food containers or pantries keeps bugs and moisture away. It's the invisible protector in your food storage system. There's also a psychological advantage. In stressful situations, feeling clean, brushing your teeth, or reducing odor can drastically improve mental clarity and emotional control. These small acts of hygiene keep a person from spiraling, and baking soda makes them possible when regular supplies run out. So the question is simple: are you prepared to clean, calm, purify, and protect without electricity, running water, or access to stores? Because if there's baking soda in your kit, you're already more prepared than most. These 11 products aren't about fear, they're about peace of mind. Because in times of disruption, panic is what empties the shelves, but preparation is what fills your plate. Are these items already in your pantry, or are you just getting started? Let us know in the comments, because your story could help someone else. Prepared just in time. And if you found this helpful, like and subscribe, because the next video might be the one that makes all the difference.